날 스치는 그대의 옅은 그 목소리.
Wine, Dad, what are you talking about? Wine, Dad, wine, I'm your father and I know what's best for you. Her dad was trying to make her understand for something. Wine, but Dad, I was marrying him because of you. Next week is my wedding and you are telling me not to marry him? Wine, Dad, I called off the wedding. There is no wedding. He isn't what we think. Try to understand. Wine, Dad, but Wine, Dad, I know Wine. It's sad, but you're not secure with them. Her dad said and left from there without listening to her. She was in shock. Everything feels like a dream. She slowly slid down to the floor. One tear left from her eyes, and then one after another. What was her dad talking about? She was the obedient girl of her family. 2 months back, when she completed her graduation, her dad asked her to marry someone, Jungkook, the most famous businessman of June Enterprises. Wine only knew his name. She didn't saw him in person. The engagement held after 2 days. She agreed because of her dad. When Wine saw him for the first time, he was much more handsome and attractive in person, but the whole engagement, he didn't look at her. He didn't smile at her. She looked at him time to time. It was the first time someone captured her heart. He was the first person in her life who captured her heart like crazily. After engagement, she saw Jungkook every time whenever he was there to meet her dad. She used to give him coffee to him whenever he was in her dad's office. She always looks at him with so much adoration in her eyes. Wine didn't talk to him in person, but her love started to grow more stronger every time she thinks about him. She knew Jungkook is a busy person, but her heart aches whenever she thinks he didn't have time to talk to her or even look at her. But she ignored this and started to think about her married life. The days passed and she started preparing for her wedding, but today her dad called off the wedding and she doesn't even know the reason behind that. She was sitting on the floor, her head was in her knees, and her tears were coming out continuously. Her heart was bleeding because of everything that had happened. Why me, God? Why me? She said while sobbing. Maybe he didn't love me. It was only me. Maybe it's his choice too not to marry me. She kept crying the whole night, sitting on the floor and slept there. The next 2 days were same. She didn't talk to anyone. She didn't eat anything. She was only surviving. Her dad saw her condition. He tried to talk to her, but she didn't listen to him. Her eyes were swollen due to a lot of crying. When she was in her room, her dad entered. Wine, Dad. Wine, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you this way. The only reason I called up the wedding because he's the undercover mafia. You're so innocent. You're my only life. I can't see you getting hurt in future. That's why I decided to marry you with someone else. I also got to know about this yesterday. He was marrying you only because of his dad. His dad forced him to marry you because his dad thought this way will profit both companies. It was a contract marriage, but I don't want to use you in our business. I know it was all my fault. I'm sorry. I didn't want to hurt you like this. He patted her hair, thinking she might asleep, and left from there. But little did he know, she listened to every word he said to her. Wine eyes became more watery. So this was the reason he didn't look at me. Even for once, it was only me who was crazily in love with me. He had no fault in it. He didn't even want to marry me. She bites her lower lip while crying. She harshly rubs her tears from her cheeks. She decided to continue her study again. It's been a week after everything that had happened. That day, her dad went on an emergency business trip and didn't come back yet. She went on her way to the home from university when her car broke down suddenly. She got down from the car. She was already late today. She looked around and saw no one. It was Siberia from the city. She took out her mobile phone to call her dad, but before she dialed her dad's number, a hand covered her mouth and mobile phone was snatched. Within a second, she felt a needle on her neck and she passed out in the arms of someone. Before passing out, she remembers the similar perfume and scent she always wanted to be around. Her eyes closed after that. J.K. Pov. He was sitting on the chair beside the bed where his soon to be wife was laid. He was looking at her for the past 2 hours. In his eyes, she was the most beautiful girl he ever saw in his life. He remembers his dad's words.
His dad, you're marrying her, Jungkook. JK dad, she's just 20 and I'm 30. I can't marry a child. His dad, do as I say. When need this collab, it will be best for our business. I don't want to hear anything from you. His dad was a mafia king and nobody knows that. After Jungkook's mom died, Jungkook was looking for her murderer. Now Jungkook is the next mafia king and his dad was preparing for that. His dad was strict with him since childhood. He didn't have any friends because his dad didn't allow him. He started training when he was only 15 because his dad wanted him to be more hard. When he first saw Wine, she was so soft and so innocent. He didn't want her to be the part of his darkness. He tried to make less contact with her, but whenever she was around him, her fragrance gave him inner peace. He started to avoid her more because he wanted to keep her as far as he could from him. But she was like a magnet. She was always on his mind and heart. He knew her dad got to know about his dad's intention. And when he got to know he was marrying her with someone else, he felt restless and wanted to have her any minute. He didn't want her to be the part of his dad's plan. He came out from her thoughts when Wine started moving slightly. She rubbed her face, eyes, and tried to come out of her sleep. Wine eyes opened slightly and she coughed. Wine, water, water. She coughed again. He got up quickly and poured water in a cup and made her drink. JK, how are you feeling now? Wine came back in her senses. She looked at the person in front of him, who was looking at her worriedly. She hurriedly backed off from him. She looked around and looked back at him again. Wine, where am I? What am I doing here? JK, you're here with me at my penthouse, he said with his calm voice. Why did you brought me here? JK, are you hungry? Wine, this isn't the answer to my question. JK, for now, just know that you're secure here. Wine got off from the bed. Jungkook, what kind of game is this? We were over then. Why did you brought me here? JK closed his eyes tightly and opened again. JK, we weren't over and would never be. You're still my fiancé and soon to be wife. Princess, stop asking the same question and come down for dinner. I know you must be hungry, he said and left her in the room alone for a moment. Mine was confused. Why did he bother here? What if this is his dad and his dad's game? She gathered courage and went down. He was in the kitchen. Nobody was there in the penthouse. Not even maids. She was confused. He is so rich then. Why he was here alone? JK, you came. Come, have a seat. I'll bring dinner. Wayne sat down there silently. He served food. Wayne took a bite and she got to know from that he's the best cook. She looked at him time to time with curiosity. JK wants to ask something, he said while taking a bite. Wayne replied after a moment. Wayne, why are you alone here? JK, because this is best for us, he said unbothered. Wayne, but you were... Jungkook phone rings. She stopped. He looked at a phone screen and from his face, he seems annoyed seeing the caller ID. JK, finish this. I'll be back after some hours. There's everything you need. Wayne tried to say him something, but he got up and left from there. JK off. JK, dad, where were you? I was trying to reach you for hours. Jacob was standing in front of him, who was bashing him for not answering his calls. Jacob got up with some work. Jacob, dad, she's nowhere to be found. Jacob knows whom he's talking about. He tightened his fist and tried to keep his facial expression normal. Jacob, dad, you know what that means? Han, my dad, called off the wedding and left for Italy. That was the best chance to strike him, but his daughter is nowhere to be found, his dad said while puffing cigarettes. JK, what do you want me to do? JK, dad looked at him and replied, JK, dad, I want his daughter. Found her and bring her to me. JK visited Han and his knuckles goes white. JK, he left from there after that. One puff, she was sitting in the room. She tried to unlock the outdoor, but it was locked. It's been 5 hours and he isn't home yet. She explores the house. There was a library. She went inside. There was hundreds of books. One book caught her attention. It was Love Makes You Crazy. She sat down and started reading there. She knew deep down in her heart that Jungkook is not going to hurt her in any way. But she really wanted to know why he brought her here. She wanted to contact her dad as soon as possible. Suddenly, the light went off. It was black and Wen had phobia of darkness. Her heart started to beat abnormally. The book fell from her hand. She got up quickly, looking here and there, but found darkness everywhere. She took trembling steps. Her hands were trying to find anything in front of her. She managed to come out of the room anyhow. She knew that there's nobody in this house except her. That makes her more anxious. She took further steps to reach in the kitchen and turn on the flame. Before she moved, a hand touched her finger. Wine panicked. She took a step back. Wine, who is this? Her throat became dry. Everything made her more panicked. The past, the trauma she had, her head started to spin, and this darkness gave more attention to her anxiety. Wine, don't come near me. Dad, help. Don't touch me, she was murmuring in her subconscious state, and her head was already spinning. Mobile flash was turned on. She saw the face and murmured, "Fine, Jungkook, help," before her body touched the ground. His arms were around her, and he carried her in his arms to the bedroom.